Hello guys, welcome to a new video of the Fischer series. Today we're looking at round 10 of the US Open in 1957. So in the previous two videos we looked at round 2 and round 6, in which those games were really nice. But in this video I actually want to show you a very quick queenless middle to end game, in which we see a lot of pieces maneuvering and Fischer slowly outplaying William in the end game. I think that's really nice because he doesn't want to trade the queens off very soon, goes for a very aggressive attacking style, but here he plays like a more positional player like Karpov, slowly building the position to outplay his opponent. Let's look at this game as a Caro-Kann. So the game starts with e4. It's against William Addison, and William actually beat Arthur Bisguier in round 2 of his games. And Arthur had 10 points out of 12 games, just like Fischer, and Fischer won on tiebreak. So William actually helped Fischer kind of to get the title. So after e4 c6, we go into a Caro-Kann, in which you want to play d5 after. Here you can play d4, go for advanced variation. You can play knight to c3 after d5 transpose like this. Or you can even play c4. With c4 this is the accelerated pan of attack. So for example, d5, c takes, e takes, and here taking with the queen is not really good. You should just wait and play knight to f6 here. But after taking with the queen, we actually give white tempo with knight to c3. You have to come back, for example, d6 or all the way back. Now d4, and we just get a lot of attacking possibilities because we have a lot of space behind this pawn. So those are possibilities, but Fischer goes for a knight to c3. Here comes d5 and knight to f3. So here you cannot really push, because if you push, we can play knight to e2. And if you try to keep a grip of this pawn, you can play c3. And if you're really greedy and want to push further, we can play knight to f4. A double attack again on the pawn. You cannot defend it. Well, if you try to defend it like this, we simply have queen check, winning the pawn. So you have to really watch out that you not push too much in this opening. So on the lower levels, I would say this is a really good opening for white, because black player will usually just push further. Here we have takes, knight takes, knight to f6, knight takes f6, e takes f6, and we just created a double pawn, but this is all theory. Bishop to c4, bishop to d6. And here, usually white castles and black castles as well. And we have just a game going on in which we will maneuver and see what happens further. But here, Fischer makes an interesting move, which I don't see often. He plays queen to e2. With queen to e2, you're basically saying, okay, if you play queen to e7, we're exchanging the queens and we're going into a middle to end game. And William says, okay, let's do it then. Queen takes, and here you can take with the king. Bishop is also possible, but king is fine because there are no queens on the board, so checkmate is really hard to do here. King takes, and here Fischer, you can see the game is a dead equal draw basically. Black only has this weakness of his double pawns, but outside of that it's really equal. And white has a 4-on-3 here. So if he can create a pass pawn, he will win the game. Let's see what happens. So now comes a d4, simply taking more space. Bishop to f5, developing. So now we just see some developing moves. Bishop to b3, perhaps wants to play c4 later on. Rook to e8, bishop to e3, king to f8. And here we have long castles. So we activate the rook like this. And we can see it's a dead draw here, so nothing going on. Developing the knight. And here comes c4, taking some more space and control over those squares. Now rook a to d8. And we can see William developed every piece he has. The pawns are nicely placed, except for this double pawns, but everything else is very solid in this position. And here Fischer can also do the same, bishop to rook to e8, h e8. But here he decides that we have this concept in chess in which we have a bad piece. This is a bad piece. It's looking at a brick wall here. It only has basically three squares to go to. While this bishop has a lot more scope, as you can see. So often you want to exchange your bad bishop for black's good bishop. And here Fischer plays bishop to c2. And by exchanging this, he gets into a slightly better position, as you can see. And the evil bar also likes this. So now black, because he has double pawns, he wants to get rid of this first double pawn. So he pushes f5. Here comes rook h to e1. f4 we're obviously not going to take because it's defended. Bishop to d2. And knight to f6. So we also created some space for the knight to go to. And it's really safe here, defending those pawns. And the knight's usually a really good defender in front of the king. So now comes knight to e5. A nice move, because you cannot really take it, but then you would be in a worse position. For example, bishop takes, d takes. The knight has to go to h5, for example. And it has no future here. The knight on the rim is dim, they say. So the knight cannot do anything here. It needs to come back via g6, knight to g7, knight to f5. So it takes time, right? So here Fischer can play bishop to b4, king to g8, rook takes, and we have this really nice move. Attacking the rook. Okay, we can just move away the rook. But now we have rook to d1. And if you take the bishop, it's mate in two. This is not possible. So the best move here is for blacks to actually take. But this endgame is way better for white, because this knight is terrible. You need time to bring it back. This bishop is limiting the king's movement. And we can simply march forward, right? And take those pawns on the queen side. So okay, that didn't happen, but I just want to show you what happens if he takes. So that's not a really good move. Here, William plays the g5. So if we take later on, for example, if we take, we can actually via h5 come back to g7 straight away. So we created some space here. And now Fischer plays f3. So if you take, I take back, you cannot come to g4. And we just limit the knight's movement forward, right? So a useful move. Knight to h5, knight to g4, and here comes king to g7. And king to g7 I don't really like, because this bishop, it's facing a brick wall here. So what would be a good square for the bishop? Well, not those squares. The best square for the bishop here is c3, and it's looking to the king right now. So why would you bring the king on the dark squares where the bishop is going to come soon? So Fischer plays bishop to c3 straight away. Now king to g6, rook takes, and c5. The bishop now has to come back, obviously it's attacked. Bishop to b8, and now d5. This is a really nice move, because this side is really blocked. You cannot do much with the knight. If the knight comes back, we just exchange it. That's not possible. The knight has to come back like this, and it takes time for you. And because it takes time, we want to create a passed pawn on this side and just attack you. So d5 is a really nice move here. Here comes c takes d5, rook takes d5. You shouldn't actually exchange it here. That's a really bad move. By taking the pawn, we're just giving white time to develop his rook. And while this might look nice, giving a check and winning this pawn, for example, king to d3, rook takes, well, now we have this amazing move, rook to d8, attacking the bishop. If the bishop comes to c7, we don't go behind it yet. We first give a check. We first give a check. The king has to go to f5, only square, and then we come back. Why is this important? Because the bishop is trapped now. And if we decided to come behind it first, then we have this amazing move f5, attacking your knight. But by playing this move first, we actually block your own pawn, and now the bishop is trapped, and this is just a win. So you shouldn't really take this, right? So you're giving us time to develop a rook. Now comes f5 anyway, kicking the knight away here, but that's fine for white because the knight wants to come in via this or via f2 or e5 or f6 anyway, so that's no problem for us. e5 check. You can see why this king walk was not good, because now you're just giving us time again. We're giving a check and we can make another move now. So black's like, okay, I'm attacking it twice, you're defending it twice, let's just take it. The bishop takes e5. And now a really important move, rook takes e5. If the rook takes e5, William, if he takes, this will be a really bad position, right? Because the knight's trapped. If the knight comes back like this, we just take it and we're going to win those pawns. So he's like, okay, let me bring the knight back like this then. But now that's also a terrible move, because now rook takes, knight takes, and look at this, bishop to e5. We're actually trapping the knight here. And this is a really important concept you have to understand in chess, that whenever you're playing a knight versus bishop endgame, putting your knight on the side of the board is really dangerous, because the bishop can trap it like this. You can see the knight has no movement anymore. It will be captured basically. So William's like, okay, you're probably going to take my knight. If I play something like this, it's a better endgame for you. You will march forward. Those pawns are really weak and you will make a pass pawn. So let me keep your bishop here. Let me make g4 push and try to win those pawns with my king. So here comes king to h5. King to d3. g4. b4. a6. So we're preventing this push for now. But that doesn't really work because we can simply play a4. This push is going to happen anywhere. G takes f3. G takes f3. Look at how weak those doubled pawns are, which Bobby really took advantage of. King to h4, hoping that he will take this pawn and then march forward. Well, here we can simply take the pawn and it's a winning endgame. Like, just take the pawn. Okay, we're giving black some time to come back. But here Fischer is not interested in this pawn. He can actually play b5. And if you take, I'm not taking bet like this. Okay, this is still winning. But Fischer, after takes, plays a5. And why is this a really good move? Well, here black plays king to h3, hoping he can win the pawn. But now comes this amazing move, c6. And here William resigned the game. Why? Well, if you take the pawn, no one is stopping this. Because the knight's trapped, it cannot come in. And you're not in time. For example, something like this. Well, you're just too late, right? We just make a queen and yeah, this is hopeless. So if you do not take, well, if you do this, then simply push, or not push, but simply take the pawn and we're winning because the knight's not coming in and we're making a queen again. This pawn is never queening because we have the king very active here, looking at both sides of the pawns, and this pawn is too far away. So in this position, after c6, William resigned the game. And Fischer won his first US Open, and after this will go to the US Championship of 1957-1958. Thank you for watching and see you on the next video. Bye bye.